Houston Methodist Hospital says of its 26,000 employees, 99% are fully vaccinated. But more than 100 workers are suing the hospital, claiming it is illegal to make the vaccine mandatory.
People trying to force you to put something into your body that you're not comfortable with in order to keep your job is just insane.
So what grounds are the employees suing on? They say having to take this vaccine makes them part of a trial, saying it's not FDA approved.
So waiting on the FDA, right? Okay. Well, let's just take a closer look and see some of the things that the Food, Drug, and Administration is involved in. Now, this is from the actual FDA site. Anything catch your attention? How about now? Yes, luciferase. Phonetically, Lucifer's race or Lucifer race. And if you think it's merely wordplay, let's just keep on reading and see by their own description, definition, explanation what this is about. But believers in Christ, we know what this is about. They're flagging our enemy, maybe their God, but our enemy's name. So let's be wise of that. In the attempt to live a life that God would have us to live by following his son, our King Jesus, I do understand and realize there are a lot of things that we may not know and that we may know in time. And that's why we need the Father, his discernment, the Holy Spirit to make things plain for us, right? But let's be honest. If we know nothing else, one of the most paramount things, one of the most biggest piece of information and insight is to know the enemy. I mean, honestly, even in gang culture or otherwise, right? I mean, you're going to know who your enemy is. You're going to know who the op is. You know, you're going to know when they're around. You're going to know what they look like, what they dress like, how they move, if they cock their hat to the left or the right, if their flag or rag is on the left or the right, what color, and so on and so forth, right? The type of graffiti that they put on the walls. I mean, all that. You're going to know all that, right? Because it's important to know. Not only are you flagging for who you are, you're also being conscious and aware of the fact that they are around. So, riddle me this. Why are we not as advised to who our enemy is, right? I think it's important. So when we hear or see the name of the enemy, we're talking about Lucifer, right? That's who I'm referring to. You should be very, very, very wise about what's going on. And when you see that name should flag something to you. Definitely, mentally, spiritually. It should let you know, hold up, man. Not only is that not of God, you know, because there's a lot of things people want to try to pick and choose and say, well, God is love. You know, he'll tolerate this, he'll tolerate that. But some things, let's kill a conversation. Let's kill a conversation. Some things are just plain and simply of the enemy. And when you see things of the enemy, not only should you back away from it, you should get in a posture and stance to fight against it. Because by default, de facto of becoming a member in the body of Christ, we are soldiers in the army. You get what I'm saying? Like, you signed up for a war, whether you know it or not. You know what I mean? So be wise for that. You know, so when you see his name, Lucifer, and let's be clear, Lucifer is the enemy, okay? Lucifer was the name of the anointed cherub, hovered over the throne of God, the man that didn't want to be next to the man, wanted to be the man. You know what I mean? He didn't want to be the light bearer, because that's what he's called, the light bearer. He bears the light. But what light? He bears the light of the Most High God. And so by default, he created a false light. You get what I'm saying? So please pay attention to this when you see a mark of the beast. And that's bigger than just a physical mark or it's a spiritual mark. It's a mark, period. Whether it's 666 or whatever the case may be, it's a mark. You know the mark, or at least you should know the mark. You should know things of the enemy, just like you know things of the Father. So when you see them, it should really perk up your spiritual antennas. And so I'm telling you, come on, folks, This is where we at. This is where we at. So take a closer look at this. They tag each G protein with luciferase, an enzyme that interacts with another protein called luciferin to release light. So it's the luciferian or luciferin that releases the light. Come on, man. These people are not hiding what they're doing. More importantly, what they're trying to do to you. A luciferian is one that believes in Lucifer as their god. And look at the word Gnosticism, spelled with a G, right? They are those that believe of the flip side, perverted version of our Most High God being their enemy and then lifting up Lucifer as being their God. They pretty much flip everything, and they believe that to be so, as Lucifer being the one who set them free, so on and so forth. So look at this. I mean, for those that think this is just weird or coincidence, God help you. God help you with discernment so you can clearly see. Do you really think it matters which shot you take, especially with this type of technology that exists? This is endgame, family. They've left nothing to chance, being duped into division just like the Democratic or Republican Party. Do your own research.
Developing vaccines is usually a very lengthy process, taking on average 8 years to get approved. Since a few years, we have the ability to create mRNA vaccines, which can be developed much faster. There are various types of vaccines, but let's take a look at the new kid on the block, mRNA vaccines. To understand how they work, let's take the COVID-19 pandemic as an example. You might have seen pictures of the virus with its distinctive spikes. These spikes allow the virus to attach to specific cells in your body and infect them. Now, here's the key idea for the COVID-19 vaccine. What if we could train our immune system to recognize these spikes by having our own bodies produce them? To do that, researchers took the virus's blueprint, its RNA, and isolated the part responsible for producing the spikes. Armed with this blueprint, they created mRNA, or messenger RNA. This is a special form of RNA that can enter your cells and give them instructions. In this case, the RNA contains instructions to build the spikes of the coronavirus. Not the virus itself, just the spikes. So mRNA vaccines contain instructions for your cells that tell them to build a part of a virus in large volumes, almost like giving them a recipe to follow.
In this video, we'll explore nanotechnology. The world is shrinking, meaning, among other things, robots will soon be traveling in your bloodstream. So, let's get started. The world is getting smaller, so let's talk about nanotechnology. We're talking about the nanometer, the nanometer. This is a billionth of a meter. We're talking about small here. Just to give you an idea of how small a nanometer is, 100,000 nanometers is the size of a human hair. So take that 100,000 and drive it all the way down. We're talking small. We're talking about the atomic level. Let me give you an illustration here. The American Society of Mechanical Engineers says that nanotechnology will leave virtually no aspect of life untouched and is expected to be in widespread use by 2020. We're already seeing robots in technology. Robots are now building other robots. Why do we need a robot building another robot? Because the robots that the robots are building are really, really tiny, down to the molecular level. We're seeing medical nanorobotics as well. We're looking at artificial red blood cells, artificial white blood cells when they find an infection. What you're looking at here, every dot you see is an atom. We're looking at tiny robots that will be able to perform glaucoma surgery, gastric bypass surgery, even provide dental repair.
In regards to the vegetation that we consume, God was pretty clear about this. You should have a seed. I mean, how else can you replenish the earth with more of the same like species? Same with us, right? Well, that's God's natural order. But look at what man is doing by creating genetically modified organisms. I mean, come on now. We are what we eat, right? So please be wise of the fact that even though you may take a seed, put the seed in the ground, grow it like you would any other seed, if that seed itself has been genetically modified, that fruit that comes up is also genetically modified. We are what we eat. So in turn, we will become genetically modified organisms simply by the food that we eat. Please be wise of that. See, because they have been doing this for quite some time, and people seem to just look over it. When it comes to GMO, the acronym just blows away a lot of the understanding behind it. Genetically modified organism. It's not a natural thing. Even though, again, you may see it. Well, I watched it. I put the seed in it. I watered it. I pruned it. It came up. Man, how you gonna tell me it's not an apple? It's a genetically modified apple. God formed Adam, and then to create Eve, he took part of Adam's DNA and formed Eve. That's God's thing. But just like the enemy want to imitate everything God does with science and technology, look what they're doing.
By a system called CRISPR-Cas9. CRISPR is short for clustered, regularly interspaced short palindromic repeats. CRISPR consists of two components, the Cas9 protein that can cut DNA and a guide RNA that can recognize the sequence of DNA to be edited. To use CRISPR-Cas9, scientists first identify the sequence of the human genome that's causing a health problem. Then, they create a specific guide RNA to recognize that particular stretch of A's, T's, G's, and C's in the DNA. The guide RNA is attached to the DNA-cutting enzyme Cas9, and then this complex is introduced to the target cells. It locates the target letter sequence and cuts the DNA. At that point, scientists can then edit the existing genome by either modifying, deleting, or inserting new sequences. It effectively makes CRISPR-Cas9 a cut-and-paste tool for DNA editing.
I keep hearing that CRISPR is going to revolutionize medicine, the way we fight disease, cure cancer, and maybe even create new humans, and I agree with that. Or in the future, we could engineer a new embryo. You can kind of see where this is going.
It's hard to get across how big a technical revolution CRISPR is. It literally has the potential to change humanity forever. Why did this sudden revolution happen, and how does it work?
Pretty strong accent, but please listen to what he is saying.
Understand the code of life. So for me, everything started many years ago when I met the first 3D printer. The concept was fascinating. A 3D printer needs three elements: a bit of information, some raw material, some energy, and it can produce any object that was not there before. So in the first approximation, if I can list the number of atoms that compose a human being, I can build it.
You can do what?
If I can list the number of atoms that compose a human being, I can build it. Met it for the first time in 1950 when Rosalind Franklin, an amazing scientist, a woman, took a picture of it. But it took us more than 40 years to finally poke inside a human cell, take out this crystal, unroll it, and read it for the first time. Well, the code comes out to be a fairly simple alphabet, 4 letters: A, T, C, and G. And to build a human, you need 3 billion of them. But for the first time in history, this is the genome of a specific human, printed page by page, letter by letter. 262,000 pages of information, 450 kilogram patient. It's a fairly big book. So just to let you see what is the code of life. Thousands and thousands and thousands and millions of letters that apparently make any sense. Let's get to a specific part. Let me read it to you. AAG, AAT, ATA. Well, to you sounds mute letters, but this sequence gives the color of the eyes to crack. I'll show you another part of it to work with. The concept is actually very simple. We're going to use a technology called machine learning. Okay? So on one side, we have genomes, thousands of them. On the other side, we collected the biggest database of human beings. Phenotypes, 3D scan, NMR, everything you can think of. And in the middle, we build a machine. We build a machine and we train a machine, well, not exactly one machine, many machines, to try to understand and translate the genome in a phenotype. What are those letters and what do they do? Can we predict the skin color? Yeah, we can. Can we predict age? We can, because up here. So in this vial of blood, there is the amount of biological information that we need to do a full genome sequence. We just need this amount. We run this sequence, and I'm going to do it with you. And we start to layer up all the understanding we have. So in the vial of blood, we predict that is a male, and the subject is a male. We predict that is 1.76 m. The subject is 1.77 m. We predict that is 76. The subject is 82. We predict his age, 38. The subject is 35. We predict his eye color, too dark. We predict his skin color. We are almost there. That's his face. Now, the reveal moment is that the subject is this person. And it's a revolution that cannot be confined in the domain of science or technology. This must be a global conversation. We must start to think the future we are building as a humanity. We need to interact with creatives, with artists, with philosophers, with politicians. Everyone is involved because it's the future of our species. Without fear, but with the understanding that the decisions that we will take in the next year will change the course of history forever. Thank you.
This is nothing to be taken lightly. God the Father doesn't take it lightly. He's very serious about his seed, his creation, and for his creation to not be commingled, perverted, combined with anything outside of that. Be wise of it. It's happening now. But what did Jesus say? In his kingdom, he will divide the sheep from goat, the wheat from tare. But before his kingdom of eternity comes, that last kingdom in the statue, in Daniel's vision, in Nebuchadnezzar's statue, iron and clay. He's the potter, we're the clay. Iron, machine, and clay, human beings, does not mix. It shouldn't. We're here, family. We are here. They're changing the DNA. They're changing God's creation by omission or commission. Ignorant to the fact, not knowing a thing is one thing, but being in the know and how you move accordingly based on what you know is a great thing. And when will our Jesus, our King Jesus, physically return? Well, he told us himself, when the worldly climate becomes such as the same as in the days of Noah and as of Lot. And what was happening in the days of Noah? Genesis 6 tells us when the angels came and they created abominations, so saith the Lord, but abominations with the women on earth. When they mixed the seed, when they perverted the DNA, the bloodline. We're here. And we know what was happening in the days of Lot in Sodom and Gomorrah. I won't go there now, but you know, much sodomite activity. Come on, family. I know we want to reject a lot of things because we want to connect so much to this world. We don't want to lose what we've created, what we built, what we've amassed, and we're family, bloodlines, riches, things of that nature. But he told us, if you love this world, if you even love your mother, your father, even your children more than you love him, you're not worthy of him. Those are not my words. That is the word. It should convict you. It should open your eyes and give you discernment. See the way he would have you to see. It's not my way, and it's definitely not your worldly way. It is the way of Yahweh, the Most High God. It is the kingdom to come. But understand, his kingdom is within you. But his physical and spiritual kingdom will be as one on this earth in a very short time. The signs are there. It has been made plain in many ways. Please take heed, because from the greenhouse to your house, I indeed love you. But God does not love everything, and I'm a child of God, so there are some things that I will not abide by.